is Kurt Sanger. I'm from the James Hay Partnership, where I'm the Head of Customer Relations. We are a specialist SIPP provider. Now, along with, I suppose, Standard Life and AJ Bell, we are one of the largest SIPP providers in the country, but I think it's fair to say that pensions in general, and certainly SIPPs, or self-invested personal pensions, are still, whilst becoming more mainstream, still reasonably niche and specialist. So to some extent we are quite large fish in a small pond. So I think interesting today, listening to some of the trends within the industry about PPI and mortgage endowments, none of that really affects us. These are not sort of things that concern us within the industry because we don't have anything to do with that. Primarily, one of the things that certainly at James Hay, and I know from speaking to peers around the industry, the pensions industry, that we see as the biggest challenge is due diligence. Where do SIPP provider responsibilities start and end when compared to the defined relationship and role we have against that of a regulated advisor and a client? So a self-invested pension, I suppose when the idea was first conceived, was to give people greater flexibility than in traditional pension offerings. So clients are able to instruct investments and decide on the level of risk and the investment strategy. Recently there's becoming more of a trend with volatile investments and mis-selling claims to see clients who have lost money to make claims against SIPP providers, saying that we shouldn't have allowed them to buy the investment. Obviously, I think one has to empathise with the client in those scenarios because they've lost money, and certainly there may be a justified claim if there has been mis-selling, but it's difficult within the industry to reconcile that with our defined responsibility as the receiver and transmitter of client orders. But it is becoming more and more apparent from communications with the regulator and the Ombudsman that we in the provider industry need to act as gatekeepers. What we're struggling to work out is what that actually means. So I think naturally the inclination is to become more conservative with the investments we'll allow clients to make within trust. So ironically, where once we were seeing complaints that we shouldn't have allowed them to buy something they've lost money on, we're now seeing claims that refer to us as being overly bureaucratic, overly fussy and tying things up in red tape by asking them to justify why they want an investment. So for us, we are consulting via AMPS, which is our trade body, with the Ombudsman and the FCA. So it is trying to understand what they expect of us. We obviously want to give the best service we can to our clients, but we want to do that and be compliant with what the FCA expects. The hardest thing is trying to work out what they actually need from us to be able to do that. So for me, absolutely due diligence is the biggest challenge in the SIPP industry at the moment.